Well, with more on this, we're joined now by Marian Arribas-Tome. She's a lecturer at the University of East Anglia and specialises in Spanish politics. Hello to you. Thank you for joining us here on Euronews Tonight. Just sum up for us to begin with just how significant this result is.
Well, it is really something very new, a new development that has not occurred in the democratic history of Spain. So from that perspective, everybody is really somehow under a state of shock, so to say, especially because of some of the values that have been somehow flagged from this party that somehow go against the grain in terms of the progressiveness that previous governments have sort of shown they were capable of. I think it is not clear yet how much of a game changer is this party, but obviously I think it has been mistaken for something very marginal, and I think the politicians in Spain haven't really read the potential of this being disruptive in time. And I think that is something they will have to catch up with very quickly. They now have to discuss possible coalitions. So this is an interesting time, but also a very potentially problematic time for Spanish politics. I think that there's an element of instability introduced from that perspective, and it echoes what's happening across Europe as well. So it's not new. Maybe we should have been more on the watch, and certainly politicians in Spain disregarded Vox as not very relevant or important. I think they were making a little mistake there.
Well, and how much of a test do you think it is for the national government? What action do you think the Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, is likely to take, if any?
I think he's very limited in what he can do now, apart from trying very hard to negotiate with the potential parties in a future, perhaps, successful coalition. But I think Ciudadanos is not interested in negotiating with Pedro Sanchez. And I think the PP party, the People's Party, is more interested in negotiating with Ciudadanos. So at the moment, the way everything is being portrayed, at least to the public, is that Ciudadanos and the People's Party are more likely to negotiate with Vox than Pedro is. So in a way, Pedro Sanchez is very isolated politically because Podemos would not actually either be a major player in shifting the balance of the seats that they need to get to be in power, to remain in power. I think Pedro Sanchez has missed opportunities of perhaps counteracting the pressure that perhaps Vox was creating in Andalucia, and the catalyst force that it was being displayed, getting people that would never have perhaps voted far right, really, parties on board, simply because they couldn't see in the other parties anything really clear enough for them to go for. And I think the lack of clarity in the other major parties in Spain has played against them in that regard. So maybe they could have made an effort to be more clear in their plans for the future, and for Andalucia in particular.
Yeah, and focusing on Andalucia briefly, it's been socialist for decades, hasn't it? Why do you think there's been this shift in opinion now?
I think saying now is a bit imprecise. I mean, it's not really perhaps correct, because this party has been, if I'm correct, it was created in around 2013. At the end of 2013 and 14 was when it started to kind of amalgamate interest within the region. I think it's a progressive shift. It's not so sudden, and I think we shouldn't forget recent events in Spain acting as a catalyst as well against perhaps the major players usually in the political Spanish scene, such as the nationalist movement in Catalonia. I think that played on Vox's favor, and I think they have managed to capitalize on that, and the instability that it created in Spain. Immigration also plays a part for the arguments, as it does for other parts.
Okay, Marian Arribas-Tome, thank you for joining us here on Euronews.